The main reason I came to Bard is because I knew students who had gone to Bard. A lot of my cohort in graduate school had gone to Bard. Friends of mine, other poets, other academics, had graduated from Bard. And the depiction they had of the experience here was unlike anything I'd ever heard before.
Everything we do in terms of our academic understanding, in terms of our programming, is really about engagement out in the world. We're not creating some kind of connoisseurs club, we're actually trying to change the world.
If you walk across campus and you hear students arguing about Plato, that's a sign of an institution interested in education. There's a reason that not every college in the country has an early college attached to it, that not every college in the country has seminars and moderation and senior projects. It's a lot of work. You have to believe in something besides the bottom line to make those things happen.
It's almost like a cycle. It's, you know, to be inspired, you need to use someone else's inspiration, and that's the job of the critic.
I think the unifying theme that connects the early colleges and the undergraduate experience at Bard is the belief that young people have the capacity to engage in serious academic work. That idea is at the heart of all the institutions in the Bard family. The early colleges in New York, the BSECs, believe that if you can really pump those first years of high school, 9th and 10th grade, and really give them a rigorous curriculum, then you can move right on into college work, and they become very serious academic students.
Bard College wants to change the nature of American education. America at one time had the most wonderful public school system in the world, of which we all can and could be very proud. But that has somewhat deteriorated. So we wanted to have a more serious type of education that would engage adolescents at an earlier age, so that however comfortable or complacent you were when you arrived, when you leave, you will have been confused, and out of that confusion, that creative confusion, you will have developed your own vision.
I think the fact that I'm an active composer and I'm on the scene is important for my students to see, because it's not all talk.
Bard is a place that really takes the concept of liberal arts seriously. And it thinks science is a liberal art, as indeed it is. But it also thinks that teaching is a liberal art.
I've taken a class with JOAN before, which widened my musical horizons, I think I could say. Because I'd never tried to compose before, and I always thought it was a lot easier than it turned out to be.
Bard has a tradition of trying to bring faculty from the outside in to let students learn from successful practitioners.
When an artist is deeply engaged in their own practice, it brings excitement to the classroom. Not because they're famous artists, but because they're thinking constantly and pushing themselves. And that electricity is communicated to the students.
When I tell my students that all players must compose at one point or another, I'm putting them on the other side of the fence. And they look at me like, well, we're just beginners. How do we do this? Figure it out. No. If you treat students like adults rather than passive kids, you're saying, I know you can do this, you know, do it.
We had an unusual combination in our history: intellectual ambition, idealism, and poverty. Those three things are an explosive combination. 150 years ago, John Bard founded an Episcopal institution. But it's interesting that over the years, the classical and the progressive, the legacy of a sacred tradition and a secular tradition, that of a university and a freestanding college, all left their mark. And finally, Bard had this rich, complex character. But the college was always very small. So if one wanted to institutionalize all the best parts of Bard's history, one actually had to show some courage to enter the national debate.
I wrote about how the occupation affects the family. In the village of Azun-Atme, we spoke with a man who, because there was a settler road dividing the village in half, His sister hadn't been to his house in over 2 years. And then I just
Students here are given an enormous amount of responsibility to go and do things, either in the school or in the world. My friend Aaron Dean and I wanted to establish a summer program for Palestinian teenagers in the West Bank to help them express themselves. And we wanted to establish the first Palestinian children's library, and the college supported us.
The ethos of the college is, it's a place to think and then to act, and I think that we all take informed citizenship very seriously. We have said collectively as an institution, we take you seriously, so step up.
What have you taken with us so far?
I've taken sociology.
While I was an undergraduate here at Bard, I said to myself, what's the best thing we could do at this institution, which has so much capacity and so much willingness to do things that others aren't?
The uniqueness of Bard lies in the trust that we place in the hands of the young people who come to us. If our students have a really interesting idea about community support, we have the tendency to make it happen and then figure out how to make it work.
The Bard Prison Initiative is a program we've had for roughly 10 years. There are 5 prisons where we, Bard College, enroll incarcerated women and men in associate and bachelor's degree programs.
When I look at the Bard experience and people like Max Kenner, who were just students when they started these programs, you wonder how they have the gall to do such, to take on such great endeavors. But the college has been able to do so.
Refuse to be out because you are exceptional.
We have 2 issues in our current crisis in education: getting high-quality teachers into schools where they're needed and keeping them there. So what we've done in California is we have established a school of our own. It's a public school in Delano, California. 85% of our students are Mexican American. And if you walked into this school, you would see graduate students walking out of graduate classrooms and next door into a 6th grade science class or a 10th grade history class. And it's obviously become a vision or idea about education that we think should be an idea about education anywhere and everywhere.
I think it's exciting that we've now extended the college's liberal arts mission to really a new way of doing international education overseas. 10 years ago, we started Smolny College, the first liberal arts college in Russia, with the University of St. Petersburg, with a new liberal arts honors college at Al-Quds University in East Jerusalem. And our latest adventure is to create a similar partnership between Bard and the University of Central Asia in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan. We go to difficult places and we look at some of the huge universities in America with large endowments that don't do half as many things as we have done.
If there's one quality that sets Bard College apart, it is the inculcation from the leadership on down that anything is possible.
When I went to Bard as an undergraduate, Bard viewed itself and was viewed by others as a progressive college. That's a group of institutions which thought about education in particular ways that not everybody agreed with. The word that I would introduce is experimental. Everything that worked in the past may be wonderful, but you have to keep trying to make it better.
It's one thing to start a small institution. It's another to have a world-class operation, and fortunately, we have been amazingly successful from very early on.
I think Bard is a kind of magnifying lens for someone who might wish to make an effort. And we're a tiny school, so we have huge effects. It's terribly important that we succeed because other institutions are watching us. If we stop doing what we're doing, they will be confirmed in their view that to take no risks and to not engage themselves in the world, that is a winning strategy. So we can show these other institutions that they can do what we're doing and that they will actually be better and that the world will be better.
I did not think when I started this career that I would be actually engaged in the use of education to defend the future. And it turns out that's exactly the battle that has been joined. and the fundamental nature of freedom and of a free society, they are both at risk. We as universities, because the nature of research, the nature of learning, the nature of debate and dissent are on the side of freedom. If we are not in the forefront as universities in the fight for truth-telling, then who is going to lead that fight?